Welcome, Chosen One. You don't poke a slumbering giant and expect to walk away unscathed. What they've done to you isn't just unwise, it's a reckless gamble with dire consequences. Engaging in conflict with the Chosen One is akin to frolicking on a volcano, taunting it to erupt. They believed themselves invincible, but they have ignited a flame they cannot outrun, a blaze that threatens to engulf all they hold dear. History whispers a harsh truth. Those who target the divinely favored never triumph. Their arrogance blinds them, their envy fuels their actions, yet their downfall is always monumental. You see, when envy takes the wheel, destruction is the inevitable destination, yet they never pause to reflect on the price they're destined to pay. They've set the stage for their own downfall. Here's the truth they never anticipated. The torment they inflicted upon you wasn't merely observed by you. It caught the attention of God, whose justice operates outside human constraints. What they thought was a mere spark has now become an inferno. And this time, the flames are not just angry, they are divine. So brace yourself, for this is a tale of vengeance cloaked in divine justice. They thought they were unstoppable, but the ground beneath them is already fracturing. They have awakened something far greater than themselves, something beyond their grasp. And now they must confront the fire they dared to kindle. If this message resonates within your spirit, let your voice be heard. Like this video, join us at Chosen One Sanctuary, and type 77 below to proclaim your power as one of the chosen. Make it known to the world that you're awake, unstoppable, and ready for what lies ahead. Your journey isn't concluded, it's only just commencing. Firstly, they bit off more than they could handle. They regarded you as just another face in the crowd, a target for their manipulation, ridicule, or dismissal without ramifications. Yet they failed to recognize the divine blueprint woven into your existence. You weren't a mere coincidence in their lives, you were a warning, a mirror reflecting their true selves, and a test of their character. Instead of honoring the gift of your presence, they trampled over it, blinding themselves with their arrogance. "Do not touch my anointed ones," the word declares. Yet they paid no heed to the warning, like sailors mockingly taunting the calm before a storm. They underestimated the magnitude of your calling and the divine shield that protects you. Their ignorance was their initial blunder, but their continued attempts to harm you sealed their fate. Each cruel word they uttered and every calculated move designed to hurt you was akin to poking a hornet's nest. They thought they could walk away unscathed, but now the swarm is upon them. Your silence wasn't a sign of weakness, it was a lion lying in wait, a volcano gathering its strength. In their arrogance, they believed they had overcome when you chose not to react, but they overlooked the truth. Patience isn't surrender, it is power. The divine pause before reckoning arrives. They wrote checks their spirits couldn't cash, and now the time has come to pay the debt. Their attacks were not merely personal, they were spiritual. By targeting you, they dared to challenge forces far beyond their comprehension. Imagine a moth drawn to a flame, oblivious to its imminent doom. That's their folly. They thought they were extinguishing your light, but instead, they fanned the flames of resilience boiling within you. You weren't here to be a victim. You were destined to be a vessel. Their actions sent ripples through realms they could neither see nor understand, disrupting plans of grand design. And now, those ripples have morphed into waves crashing upon them, laden with the weight of divine justice. They believed they were tearing you down, yet every stone they hurled inadvertently constructed the foundation for your ascendance. Your light has grown stronger, sharper, and unmistakable. Now they find themselves cast in the shadows of their own illusions, utterly baffled by the power they sought to extinguish. They played with fire, And now they are experiencing the harsh lesson that some flames cannot be tamed. Their downfall isn't a question of if, it's a matter of when. They underestimated you, but more importantly, they underestimated the God who walks alongside you. Secondly, pride goes before the fall. They thought they could toy with you and escape unscathed. Their arrogance served as armor, leading them to believe they were untouchable. Too clever for consequences, too powerful to ever falter. They misinterpreted your silence for weakness and your patience for permission. Yet the very pride they displayed with such bravado has become the anchor that pulls them down. Arrogance is a perilous illusion, blinding people to the unseen forces that uphold balance in the universe. They mocked the laws of the divine, acting as if they could uproot what was planted with purpose. To challenge a chosen one isn't merely an affront to you, it's a direct challenge to the very one who selected you. Here's an eternal truth. Battles against God are never won. In their pride, they failed to believe in what lay beyond their vision. They presumed that spiritual justice was a mere fantasy, believing they could operate in darkness eternally without the light unveiling their schemes. They constructed their plans upon a foundation of deception, thinking it impervious. Now the cracks are widening, revealing the truth. They thought they were in control, but in reality, they were dancing on quicksand all along. Arrogance screams the loudest just before collapse, doesn't it? They strutted around, convinced they had silenced you, broken you, and outsmarted you. Yet, here they are, trapped in the snare they set for you. The fire they ignited is now raging, out of control, and no clever deception or desperate justification can save them now. The very energy they sent forth to ruin you has rebounded upon them, magnified and relentless. God witnessed every action they took, every hidden scheme, every toxic word, every calculated betrayal. You never needed to retaliate, for divine justice doesn't require your hands to intervene. Now, they find themselves struggling as their elaborate facades unravel before their eyes. They thought themselves invincible, but in truth, they were merely blinded. Their greatest mistake wasn't underestimating you, it was underestimating the God who shields you. And now, they recognize the truth. Pride may grant the illusion of invulnerability, but it also ensures an inevitable downfall. Thirdly, they ignited a fire that crafted you instead of destroying you. They believed they could break you, their intentions clearly outlined. Their aim? To see you crumble, to shatter your confidence, and to make you question everything you were destined to become. Yet, in their arrogance, they miscalculated the flames they were igniting. Instead of reducing you to ashes, they unwittingly kindled the flame that transformed you. What aimed to destroy you revealed your unshakable strength. Isn't it a cosmic irony? Their cruelty wielded as a hammer, and their betrayal functioning as the anvil. They forged something indestructible in you. The very pain they inflicted became the catalyst for your metamorphosis. Like gold refined by fire, you emerged brighter, purer, and more valuable than ever. Each insult, each scheme, each setback was not a hindrance, but rather a stepping stone toward your evolution. Oni believed they were extinguishing your light, yet all they managed to do was fan the flames of your resilience. The fire they ignited failed to consume you. Instead, it burned away doubts, fears, and limitations that previously confined you. They mistook their power for control, but they couldn't control what they awakened within you. The irony is almost poetic. The harder they sought to obliterate you, the closer you drew to becoming unstoppable. Their efforts to derail your journey only accelerated your progress toward destiny. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, you stand as a living testament to the truth that what is meant for harm can, in fact, be transformed into triumph. Now they are left to witness in stunned silence the version of you they never thought possible. stronger, sharper, wiser, and untouchable. The fire they kindled to be your undoing has become the flame lighting your path forward. What they designated as your defeat has morphed into a victory they will be compelled to witness, powerless to halt. The lesson is clear. A chosen one does not burn, they rise. And now you stand as proof that no amount of darkness can ever extinguish a flame ignited by purpose. Lastly, their actions became the very evidence sealing their fate. They believed their deeds were hidden, their cruelty unobserved, their betrayals forgotten with the passage of time. But they couldn't have been more mistaken. Each word they directed against you, every meticulously planned act of harm, and every lie they propagated wasn't merely seen, it was recorded. The spiritual realm witnesses all, especially when the target is a chosen one. You do not walk this path alone. Your purpose carries profound divine protection and unity. What they assumed to be a personal vendetta was, in truth, a challenge to something much grander than you. A confrontation with the divine plan God initiated. Their deeds transcended simple attacks. They became evidence in a spiritual court where justice is swift and no action goes unmeasured. Every betrayal, regardless of its deceptive packaging, was laid bare before forces unseen. They thought they were escaping unpunished, but all they accomplished was to weigh down the scales of divine justice. Their arrogance obscured the truth. Nothing escapes the eyes of God. It's almost poetic. Piece by piece, they constructed their case against themselves through every detrimental action inflicted upon you. In their belief, they were untouchable, but in reality, they were merely sealing their own fate. The seeds of malice they sowed in secrecy are now blossoming for all to observe, and the fruits of their deeds are now manifesting in undeniable ways. Bitter, they didn't merely challenge you. They sought to undermine your calling, your purpose, the divine hand that has steered your life. That's a battle where no human can prevail. Justice may not manifest immediately, but for the chosen, it is always inevitable. What they believed would shatter you now stands as evidence of their own undoing, echoing louder than their feeble excuses could ever drown out. What they thought they concealed has been exposed. The evidence is undeniable, and now they confront the repercussions of a truth they can no longer escape. When you harm the chosen, you seal your own fate. Number 5, they ridiculed the light that illuminated their shadows. Their laughter was never truly directed at you. It was the reflection of their own insecurities mirrored by your light. They failed to understand the favor you bore, the calm resilience that enveloped you, or the divine purpose you embodied. Rather than seeking to comprehend, they resorted to mockery, because your very presence stirred something within them, something they were not prepared to face. What people cannot grasp, they often fear, and what they fear, they frequently attack. Their sarcasm and derision were shields against their own insecurities, deflecting from the truth your light unveiled. The divine energy within you acted like a mirror, compelling them to confront their own jealousy, bitterness, and rebellion. Mocking you was merely an escape from their shadows, an attempt to silence the discomfort your strength evoked. But their mockery was far from harmless. Every derogatory word, every sneer aimed at you wasn't just an affront to your dignity. It was a rebellion against the source of your strength. They weren't just belittling you, they were rejecting the divine current flowing through you, a rejection burdened with a weight far heavier than they could ever comprehend. To belittle the light is to resist the truth, and such rebellion against truth never goes unpunished. Here lies the irony they never anticipated. Their cruelty didn't diminish your light, it amplified it. While they set out to break you down, your spirit grew in fortitude. While they scorned what they couldn't comprehend, your faith solidified and your purpose sharpened. Every effort to diminish you only stoked the flames of your refinement. Now, as they watch your ascent, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. What they deemed weakness was, in actuality, unshakable favor. The very thing they attempted to extinguish has become the evidence of their own deficiencies: courage, faith, and divine protection. Their attempts to shatter you only unveiled a strength they could never understand. Now they are left grappling with the reality that the light they derided was always beyond their reach. Number 6. They misread your silence as defeat. They believed your quietude was irrefutable proof that they had conquered you. To them, your lack of response signaled submission, a white flag waving in acknowledgement of their so-called victory. They couldn't have been more mistaken. Your silence was not surrender. It was the calm before a storm they never saw coming. In their arrogance, they misjudged the power of stillness. You understood something they did not. Not every battle demands your hands or voice. Silence, when wielded by the chosen, is not weakness but strategy. While they were consumed with plotting and scheming, you opted for wisdom over impulse, for restraint over retaliation. You stepped aside, not from fear, but because you relied on a force far greater than yourself to rectify the situation. Divine justice is never rushed, but it never misses its mark. Your silence wasn't void, it was a resounding call for spiritual intervention. Each insult they hurled, every deceitful trap they laid, every lie they circulated, they believed these secured their victory. But all they did was dig their own grave. The fire they ignited was already smoldering back in their direction, fueled by the very energy they released intending to harm you. As they reveled in their arrogance, something profound transpired. Your silence exposed them. Stripped of their disguises, their true natures emerged, malicious, insecure, and deceitful, while they assumed you were too weak to observe. But you were watching, not with vengeful intent, but with the assurance that every action carries its repercussions. Now, those consequences are unfurling, and they can't evade the truth. The silence they mocked has morphed into their greatest humiliation. What they believed to be your weakness turned out to be strength beyond their comprehension. By stepping back, you didn't concede defeat. You turned the battle over to a force that never falters, a justice that is always precise. The ultimate irony is that they thought they had silenced your voice, yet it's their own cries for mercy that echo now. Their gravest error lay not in underestimating your voice, but in misjudging the power of your silence. Number 7, they disregarded mercy's warnings. The signs were there, as clear as sunlight breaking through a storm. A stroke of bad luck they couldn't rationalize, a dream that left them rattled, a nagging voice urging them to halt. These were not mere coincidences. They were divine lifelines, gentle nudges inviting them to reconsider. But pride drowned out the whispers of grace, leading them to dismiss their concerns as paranoia. The setbacks they endured were labeled as mere coincidence, and the dreams meant to awaken them were brushed off as fleeting imagination. Instead of pausing to reflect, they barreled ahead, emboldened by a misguided belief that they were invincible. Here's the reality: mercy always precedes judgment. Even those who inflict harm are afforded moments of clarity, a chance to redirect their trajectory. The warnings weren't punishments, they were invitations to step back from the precipice before it was too late. But their pride, like a blinding veil, shut down their hearts from reason. They overlooked the fractures forming in their plans, mistaking a lull in consequences for permission to persist. What they failed to grasp was that every ignored warning was a step closer to their downfall. The whispers grew louder, the signs more glaring, but their arrogance left them deaf to reason. They doubled down on their destructive path, unaware that their own hands were igniting the fires that would soon consume them. Now, as the world around them disintegrates, those dismissed moments flood back. The dreams they laughed off, the sudden misfortunes they casually shrugged, and the inner voice they silenced all come rushing to the forefront. They see it clearly now. Those were their chances, their exits, their lifelines. But pride rendered them blind to the mercy that could have preserved them. Their downfall was not a sudden calamity. It was a slow, deliberate descent, guided by their refusal to listen. The tragedy isn't merely in their fall, it's how preventable it could have been. Mercy knocked, but their arrogance chose not to answer the door. Number 8, they sought to bury you, but you were a seed destined to rise. They believed they could silence you, crush you, erase the perceived threat you represented by plunging you into darkness. What they didn't comprehend was that burying you wasn't the conclusion, it was the commencement. When they piled on the darkness, they unknowingly planted you within the very soil where your growth would thrive. Like a seed hidden in the earth, unseen and forgotten, they underestimated the power that lay dormant in this dark space. What they intended as your grave transformed into your foundation. The pressure they exerted was what compelled you to root deeper, drawing strength from hidden sources, allowing you to metamorphose into something they never predicted. Every attempt to break you felt like rain nurturing your soul. Every effort to silence you resembled sunlight reaching down to awaken your purpose. What they considered a defeat was actually divine preparation. As they celebrated a conclusion they believed was your undoing, you were quietly becoming a force they couldn't resist. The darkness they thought would consume you became fertile ground for your greatest transformation. They couldn't perceive the growth happening beneath the surface. They confused your stillness for surrender. Yet, like a seed breaking through the ground, your rise became unavoidable. When you emerged, stronger, wiser, and more unstoppable than ever, they were left flabbergasted. You weren't just enduring, you were thriving, flourishing in ways they could never have envisioned. Meanwhile, their own lives began to bear the heavy weight of their actions, their lies, their schemes, the cruelty they could no longer evade. The harvest of what they had sown was now upon them, revealing the truth that your very existence had exposed. What they attempted to bury became the truth that laid bare their own unraveling. You were never meant to remain hidden. You were always destined to ascend. Number 9, their schemes became the catalyst for their downfall. Every plot they concocted, every trap they meticulously set, every strategy they believed would obliterate you, ultimately turned against them in the most astounding manner. They fancied themselves clever, orchestrating your demise, but their cunning plans became their undoing. They didn't grasp that when someone aligns with divine purpose, every attack only serves to fortify their ascent. Their schemes weren't directed solely at you. They were aimed at the forces that protect and guide you. That's where they stumbled into a fatal miscalculation. They thought they were maneuvering the strings, but the very threads they sought to ensnare you with morphed into the knots tightening around their own ambitions. What was intended to shatter you only laid bare their flaws, their arrogance, their deceit. Justice would come for them, sealing the fate they had so carelessly crafted. The very darkness they unleashed would reverberate back, illuminating the truth that they could no longer evade. In their quest to bury you, they unwittingly planted the seeds of their own unraveling. Now, the sunlight of truth is penetrating the darkness they tried to impose, revealing all they sought to conceal. When the chosen rise, every plot against them only becomes a stepping stone towards their triumph. They weren't merely outsmarted, they were completely undone. Every move they made acted like a boomerang, circling back to them faster and more forcefully than they ever thought possible. As they sat back, Expecting to see you falter, they were unknowingly crafting the stage for their own reckoning. The traps they set became their own prisons. Their lies morphed into the very truths that unmasked their intentions, and their attempts to harm you ultimately shone a spotlight on their true selves for all to witness. Now, as you rise in strength and purpose, their meticulously crafted plans lie in ruins. What they created with malice has spiraled into chaos in their lives. The more they pushed to see you fail, the deeper they sank into the quagmire of their own making. They desired your downfall, yet all they achieved was digging their own graves. The irony is profoundly poetic. Their confidence in your demise blinded them to the reality that they were orchestrating their own downfall. As they confront the wreckage of their actions, a harsh truth settles in. Their plans didn't merely fail, they spectacularly backfired. What they intended to bury you with has become the very foundation upon which you stand tall. Their fall from grace has transformed into your rise to glory. Every effort they made to dismantle you, to tarnish your name, strip you of your blessings, and isolate you has only hastened their own demise. They believed they could take from you without facing consequences, but in denying you, they ultimately denied themselves. What they didn't comprehend is that favor can't be stolen. It must be earned, and theirs is now slipping through their fingers. Socially, their masks have cracked, revealing the truth that is catching up with them. The alliances they relied on are collapsing, and the people they manipulated are now turning away as their webs of deception unravel. Their influence, once a source of power, is dissipating like smoke in the wind. The spotlight they once craved has now become a glaring light that exposes their flaws, leaving their formerly staunch support nowhere to be found. Spiritually, they find themselves completely severed. With every act of malice, they distance themselves from divine favor. What they once took for granted, the flow of blessings, a sense of purpose, and the peace that comes from alignment, has dried up. They now dwell in a wilderness, unable to hear, see, or feel the guidance they once disregarded. They may not yet be fully aware, but they have effectively shut themselves out from the grace they so desperately need. Materially, the cracks are finally becoming visible. The wealth, success, and stability they once boasted of are slipping from their grasp. What was achieved through deceit and manipulation was never genuinely theirs to hold on to. The blessings they attempted to withhold from you are now pouring freely in your direction. The tables have turned, and their losses are transforming into your abundance. On the other hand, you are stepping into the favor that was always rightfully yours. Where they falter, you soar. Where they lose, you gain. Your strength, patience, and alignment with your divine purpose have paved a path where blessings follow your every step. The favor they sought to deny you is now undeniably yours to embrace. As they wrestle with the aftermath of their own making, you are walking confidently toward the wealth of everything they believed they could rob you of. Their loss isn't merely a consequence, it stands as evidence of your rise. Notably, they have provoked the wrath of a protective creator. Their gravest mistake was believing they were merely attacking you. What they failed to understand is that in targeting you, they were inciting a force far greater than themselves, the protective creator who shields you. Every cruel word, every betrayal, and every calculated strike against you wasn't just an affront to you, but a declaration of defiance toward the divine power that governs and safeguards your existence. You were never standing alone. They thought they were up against a mere human, but they were, in truth, challenging the divine purpose and the spiritual guardians assigned to you. Through their arrogance, they overlooked the reality that you are chosen, marked by an indelible favor they could never strip away. Their actions were not mere miscalculations. They were acts of outright rebellion against something eternal. Now, they are wrestling with the heavy consequences of their choices. The universe bears no forgetfulness, and justice will not postpone forever. What they have sown in malice is returning to them with overwhelming force. They believed they could elude the repercussions, but the relentless wrath of a protective creator is upon them. As you rise, enveloped in divine favor, they are left to face the devastation they set in motion. Their downfall isn't an accident. It is the inevitable outcome of challenging a power beyond their comprehension. The fire they ignited, believing it would consume you, has transformed into a furnace engulfing them. Their lies, betrayals, and cruelty were intended to break you, yet instead they forged you. What they didn't foresee was that the flames they kindled with their malice would spiral out of control and turn on them. While they sought to reduce you to ashes, that very fire has only strengthened your resolve. Chosen and protected, you were not destroyed. You were refined. Meanwhile, the inferno they unleashed is consuming their own lives. Relationships are disintegrating. Opportunities are vanishing, and stability is crumbling into dust. What they hoped would yield triumph is now dismantling everything they held dear. The more they attempt to evade the consequences, the hotter the furnace of their making burns. Their malice has turned against them, magnifying the pain they sought to inflict on you. They aimed to dismantle your peace, yet it is their happiness now engulfed in flames. No matter the direction they turn, there is no sanctuary. The fire reflects their own darkness, and it will not relent. You, however, emerge unscathed, emboldened, and more aligned with your true purpose. While they struggle with the wreckage wrought by their choices, you rise unstoppable and blessed, walking away from the ashes they created. The universe possesses a flawless method of correcting injustices, ensuring that those who turn against you ultimately face the repercussions of their defiance. Their loss is your gain. The fire they intended to extinguish you with has transformed into their own furnace, while you stand as living proof that nothing can stand against you when you are chosen and divinely protected. What was meant for your harm has paved the way for your greatest triumph. Every challenge, every betrayal, every attack has only fueled your ascendance. Now, as they face the repercussions of their actions, you confidently step into the future that was always yours to claim. Keep rising, for the path ahead holds even greater victories. If this message resonates with your spirit, know that you are exactly where you're meant to be. Don't let this momentum cease. Stay connected to content that aligns you with your purpose and keeps you unstoppable. Become a part of the Chosen One's sanctuary. Together, we will journey forward, stronger, wiser, and unapologetically chosen. Join us now, stay aligned, stay blessed, and remember, the best is yet to come.